Hey there. Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a lot to uncover today. We're going to be looking at private equity, the legacy of President Carter, the future of Apple, and the rise of canned cocktails. Pretty diverse, huh? We're going to see what kind of connections pop up as we explore all this.
Yeah, it's all about seeing the big picture, right?
Yeah.
Understanding how these different forces and trends kind of interact.
Okay, so first up, let's dive into the world of private equity. Our sources point to some pretty interesting shifts happening in this space. One of them is Steve Klinsky, co-founder of Goldman Sachs' private equity arm, and he's currently running New Mountain Capital. That's a firm with a whopping $55 billion under management.
Oh yeah, Klinsky, he's got a front row seat to like the whole evolution of private equity. I mean, he's seen it grow from a pretty niche financing strategy to, well, a major player in the business world. His firm's journey actually reflects that shift pretty well. They started as a small team, and they were really focused on debt-free acquisitions. Basically, they bought companies without taking on new debt,
Yeah.
and now they're this huge firm with branches in credit and real estate.
Wow, talk about growth. But he's saying that the private equity landscape is changing, right? It's not as easy to just, I don't know, flip companies for a quick profit like it maybe used to be. Deals are slowing down, and it's harder to find buyers who are ready to pay top dollar for these companies.
It's not just about the financial engineering anymore. Like leveraging companies to boost returns. Private equity firms, they've got to show that they can add real value to the businesses they acquire. They have to make them better, not just, play with the numbers.
So they're having to be more hands-on now. I mean, employing teams of experts to actually dive in and optimize their portfolio companies.
Exactly. It's not just about the numbers anymore. It's about really knowing how to run businesses.
So what does this mean for the average investor, someone who maybe has money in a fund that invests in private equity?
That's a really good question. I think this shift towards a more operational approach, well, it could mean longer investment timelines. So if you're used to quick returns, you might want to adjust your expectations. It also raises the stakes for private equity firms. They need to prove they're not just financial wizards. They have to show that they can actually manage and grow businesses.
All right. Let's switch gears now and talk about a different type of legacy, the legacy of President Jimmy Carter. Now, he often gets a bad rap, right, for the economic troubles during his presidency. But our sources, they paint a much more, well, nuanced picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There are several people who worked with Carter who are now highlighting his accomplishments, stuff that often gets overlooked, like Stuart Eisenstadt. He was a former Carter administration official. He explains that Carter actually laid the groundwork for a more competitive U.S. economy.
Really? How so?
Well, by deregulating key industries, things like airlines, railroads, trucking, even telecommunications.
That's interesting. I mean, those were pretty bold moves back then, and they've obviously had a huge impact on how we live and work today.
Exactly. And, people might not connect those dots back to Carter's presidency.
Yeah, they just see the tough economic times, right?
Right. But Eisenstadt really emphasizes that Carter, despite that image, he was a fiscal conservative. He actually worked hard to keep those budget deficits low. So it kind of challenges that whole perception of him as a weak economic leader.
Huh, interesting. It's funny how history can sometimes get things wrong.
It really is. And then there's Roger Altman, another former Carter official. He really points to Carter's foresight, especially when it comes to energy policy.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
He was all about energy independence and renewable energy sources. Heck, he even had solar panels installed on the White House roof back in the 70s.
He was ahead of his time, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we can't forget about his achievements in foreign policy, especially the Camp David Accords. I mean, that peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, it was monumental.
Yeah.
And it still impacts the Middle East today.
It does. It's a big deal. So it seems like Carter was more focused on those long-term solutions, addressing complex issues head-on, even if they weren't popular or didn't give immediate results.
Yeah, definitely. He was playing the long game, trying to build something lasting.
A pretty stark contrast to how politics works today, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting, Professor Alan Lichtman from American University, he compares Carter to Andrew Jackson. Both of them were outsiders, and they appealed to voters who were tired of the establishment.
That's a fascinating comparison. Makes you think about how that same sentiment might play out in today's world, doesn't it?
It does. And you have to wonder if a guy like Carter, with his strong moral compass and his focus on values, would even resonate with voters in the same way today. I mean, the political landscape has changed so much.
Yeah, it really has.
But it's worth noting that even his critics, they acknowledge his dedication to public service, especially his humanitarian work after he left office. Carter's story, it reminds us that true leadership goes way beyond just politics and economics. It's about character and a commitment to something bigger than yourself.
Well said. Okay, let's switch gears again and zoom into the world of tech,
Hmm.
specifically Apple. The company known for its sleek design and its cutting-edge innovation. But we have a source, Craig Moffett. He's a prominent Wall Street analyst, and he's got a bold prediction. He's issued a sell rating on Apple stock.
Now, before everyone panics, it's important to understand what he's actually saying. Moffat isn't saying that Apple is like a failing company or anything. He's really just focused on its valuation. Basically, whether the stock price is a fair reflection of the company's current and future earnings.
So he's crunching the numbers and saying, hold on, even with Apple's amazing brand and its loyal customers, that stock price might be inflated.
Yeah, he's basically saying it might not match up to the company's actual growth.
Okay, so what are some of the things he's worried about? What's making him think this way?
He's highlighted a few potential risks. For one, there's always the possibility of trade tensions heating up again, a new Trump administration. They might bring back tariffs. And that could definitely impact Apple's manufacturing and pricing.
Yeah, that's true. That global landscape is always shifting. What else is he concerned about?
Well, there are also those legal challenges to Google's payments to Apple for search, right? And that actually represents a pretty significant portion of Apple's revenue. And then, of course, there's the whole situation in China. It's a crucial market for Apple, but the political and economic climate there is, well, it's getting pretty complex.
Right, and we can't forget about artificial intelligence, AI. Some experts are predicting that AI is going to revolutionize the tech world and drive this massive upgrade cycle, but Moffat isn't so sure.
Yeah, he's a bit skeptical about whether AI will be the game changer that everyone's hoping for, at least not right away.
So he's basically saying, don't get too caught up in the hype.
Yeah, a little healthy skepticism never hurts. I mean, while AI definitely has huge potential, it's still early days. We need to wait and see if it can actually deliver that sustained earnings growth to justify Apple's current valuation. And, it is pretty high right now.
Okay, so we've got geopolitical factors, legal battles, and the uncertainties of AI all swirling around Apple. Seems like investors have a lot to consider beyond just the company's, cool factor.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that past performance doesn't guarantee future success, especially in the fast-paced world of tech. You got to be aware of the risks, not just the potential rewards.
All right, from the complexities of private equity and the nuances of a presidential legacy to the high-stakes world of tech investing, we've covered some pretty complex ground so far. But for our final deep dive today, let's explore something a bit more, shall we say, refreshing.
You're talking about canned cocktails. Now, that's a trend that's really taken off, especially here in the U.S. Sales of premixed cocktails have just exploded, and brands like High Noon, they're all about tequila-based cocktails, and they are leading the charge.
You're right, it's not just a little bump in sales either. We're talking about a 650% increase since 2019. It seems like everyone's getting in on the action, even those big beer companies like Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
Why do you think this trend has taken off so dramatically?
Well, the ready-to-drink market has actually been evolving for decades. Remember wine coolers back in the 80s? Then there were those, what were they called? Those brightly colored Alka-Pops in the 90s. And more recently, hard seltzers like White Claw. They just changed the game completely.
I remember those phases. You're right, there's always been a demand for convenient pre-packaged alcoholic drinks. But what's interesting now is this shift toward more sophisticated flavors, higher quality ingredients.
Exactly. Hard seltzer might have normalized the idea of canned alcoholic beverages, but now people are looking for more than just the basic flavors. They want something that feels a little more, elevated. And spirit-based cocktails, they can offer that variety and that more premium experience.
And it's really interesting. This whole canned cocktail boom, it's mostly a U.S. thing. Something like 90% of canned cocktail consumption happens right here in the U.S. Why do you think that is?
Well, there are a few reasons. One is the tax structure here in the U.S. Canned cocktails are often taxed more like beer than spirits, which makes them more affordable. But it's also about cultural differences. In other countries, there's a stronger tradition of making cocktails from scratch, maybe even a little bit of a stigma around pre-mixed drinks. But here in the U.S., convenience often wins out.
Makes sense. So within this booming market, we're seeing a shift from those malt-based drinks like your White Claws to those spirit-based cocktails like High Noon. What do you think is driving that change?
Well, it's partly perception. Spirit-based cocktails are seen as more, well, premium. They offer a wider range of flavors and experiences. Plus, the sheer variety of spirits available, tequila, vodka, gin, It just allows for so much more creativity with those flavor profiles.
Yeah, and it seems like it's not just about what's in the can, it's also about the occasion, right? Canned cocktails are perfect for those on-the-go moments, picnics, barbecues, concerts. You don't have to worry about mixing drinks or carrying a ton of supplies.
Exactly. It taps into that desire for convenience without sacrificing quality or taste. But there are some challenges in this market. One is that it's a very dynamic space. New brands are popping up all the time. It's really hard for any one brand to just hold on to its position.
Sounds like a pretty competitive landscape.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other hurdles that these brands face?
Well, even the big guys, those huge beer companies, they're finding it tough to build lasting brands in the ready-to-drink market. They might have the resources, the distribution networks, but creating a brand that truly resonates with consumers and builds loyalty, that's proving to be really difficult.
Yeah, consumer tastes are changing so quickly. What's hot today might be old news tomorrow. It's hard to keep up.
It really is. And this constant churn, it makes it tough for brands to invest heavily in marketing and branding. It's hard to build a long-term strategy when you're not even sure if your product will still be relevant in a few months.
That makes sense. Now, amidst all this talk of alcoholic beverages, our sources are also pointing to another interesting trend, the rise of non-alcoholic options, which, at first glance, seems a little counterintuitive, right? I mean, everyone's buzzing about canned cocktails, but at the same time, there's this growing interest in not drinking alcohol.
Yeah, it seems like a contradiction, but it's not really. There's a growing awareness of the potential health risks of drinking too much, and younger generations, they're especially interested in moderating their alcohol intake. It's not necessarily about abstaining completely, it's more about having options, being able to socialize and enjoy a good drink without the alcohol.
So the beverage industry is having to adapt to these changing preferences. How are they doing that?
We're seeing the emergence of what some are calling total beverage companies. These companies offer a wide variety of products, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. They're trying to cater to a broader range of consumer needs, recognizing that not everyone wants to drink alcohol all the time.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all your beverage needs.
Pretty smart.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the ins and outs of private equity and the reevaluation of President Carter's legacy to the uncertainties of Apple's future and this booming market for canned cocktails. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. And you know what's fascinating? All these seemingly unrelated topics actually have some common threads running through them.
Ah, help us connect the dots here. Think about it. We've seen how private equity firms are having to change their approach, moving away from just chasing quick profits and focusing more on building long-term value. We've seen how President Carter, who is often judged solely on the economic challenges during his time, was actually a visionary leader who laid the groundwork for so much of what we take for granted today. And then we've seen how even a tech giant like Apple, with all its brand power, is facing a ton of uncertainty in this rapidly evolving technological world.
I see what you're saying. It seems like the common thread here is adaptability. Whether you're a massive private equity firm, a former president, a tech giant, or even a canned cocktail brand, the ability to adapt to change, to roll with the punches, that's essential for survival.
You got it. We live in a world that's in constant flux, and the winners, the ones who thrive, are the ones who can anticipate change, embrace new ideas, and adjust their course as needed.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't afford to get stuck in old ways of thinking.
Exactly. We have to challenge those assumptions and adapt to new realities.
And that brings us back to you, our listener. By understanding these trends and the forces shaping them, you can make better decisions in your own life, whether it's your career, your investments, or just how you see the world.
Think of it like you've been given a peek behind the curtain, right? You've seen how these seemingly unrelated trends are actually all connected. You've seen how the world is constantly shifting. Now you can use that knowledge to your advantage.
It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur chasing the next big thing, an investor trying to make sense of the markets, or just someone who wants to stay ahead of the curve. This ability to connect the dots, it's invaluable.
It helps you see the bigger picture, anticipate those challenges and opportunities, and ultimately make smarter decisions. It's like having a secret weapon in a world that's just becoming more and more complex and unpredictable.
So as you go about your day, I want you to keep your eyes peeled for those unexpected connections. They're everywhere, trust me.
And don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from questioning what everyone else takes for granted, from looking at things from a totally different angle. That's really what this deep dive is all about. It's about encouraging you to think critically and make those connections.
We hope this deep dive has given you something to think about, something that sparked your curiosity.
And we're going to leave you with one final thought-provoking question. Given how quickly things are changing, what skills and mindsets do you think will be most important for navigating the future? What can you start doing today to prepare yourself for what's coming next?
Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own deep dive into the world around you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making those connections. So we got those geopolitical factors, legal battles, AI uncertainty. It's a lot to think about, huh? Goes way beyond just how cool Apple products are.
Definitely. It really drives home the idea that what worked in the past doesn't necessarily guarantee future success. Especially in the tech world, things change so fast. You got to stay informed about the risks involved, not just focus on the potential rewards.
Right, right. Okay, so we've gone from the intricacies of private equity, the complexities of a president's legacy, to the high-stakes world of tech. For our last deep dive today, let's shift gears to something a little more refreshing.
You're talking about canned cocktails.
Yeah.
Yeah, that trend has really exploded, especially in the US. I mean, sales of those pre-mixed drinks have just skyrocketed. And brands like High Noon, the tequila-based ones, they're leading the pack.
Yeah, high noon, those are good. And it's not just a little uptick in sales either. It's a massive jump, like 650% since 2019. Even the big beer companies, the Anheuser-Busch's of the world, they're all jumping on board. What do you think is driving this trend?
Well, the ready-to-drink market, it's been around for a while. Think about it. We had wine coolers in the 80s, then those, what were they called? Oh, yeah, the Alka-Pops in the 90s. And then more recently, the hard seltzers, White Claw. Truly, those really changed the game.
Oh, yeah, I remember those phases. It seems like there's always been the thirst for that convenience, prepackaged alcoholic drinks ready to go. But what's different now is, well, the quality, the flavors are more sophisticated, the ingredients are better.
Got it. Hard seltzer might have gotten people used to the whole idea of canned alcoholic drinks, but now consumers, they're looking for something more, something a bit more elevated. Spirit-based cocktails, they offer that variety, that premium feel that people are looking for.
And here's a fun fact. This whole canned cocktail boom, it's pretty much a U.S. thing. Almost 90% of canned cocktail consumption happens right here. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a few things. First, the way taxes are structured in the U.S. canned cocktails, they're usually taxed more like beer than hard alcohol, which makes them more affordable. But it's also cultural, I think. In a lot of other countries, there's a stronger tradition of, making cocktails from scratch, maybe even a bit of a stigma around pre-mixed drinks. But here in the U.S., convenience often wins out.
That makes sense. So we're seeing this shift within the market, right? From those malt-based drinks, the White Claws, to the spirit-based cocktails, the High Noons. What do you think is behind that?
I think it comes down to perception. Spirit-based cocktails are generally seen as a bit more, well, high-end. They offer a wider range of flavors, different experiences, and just the variety of spirits you can use, tequila, vodka, gin. It allows for a lot more creativity with those flavor profiles.
Yeah, you can really get creative with it. And it seems like it's not just about what's in the can. It's about the whole experience, the occasion. Canned cocktails are perfect for those on-the-go moments. Picnics, barbecues, concerts. You don't have to mess around with mixing drinks or lugging around a bunch of stuff.
Exactly. It's all about convenience, but without sacrificing quality or taste. But there are challenges in this market. It's very dynamic, new brands popping up constantly. It's tough for any one brand to really establish itself.
Sounds like a tough market to crack.
Yeah.
What are some of the other hurdles these brands are facing?
Even the big players, those huge beer companies, they're finding it really hard to build lasting brands in this space. I mean, they've got the resources, the distribution networks, but creating a brand that truly resonates with consumers and builds that loyalty, it's proving to be really difficult.
It's like consumer tastes change so fast, it's hard to keep up. What's popular today is, well, gone tomorrow.
It really is. And at that constant churn, it makes it hard for brands to commit, to invest heavily in marketing and branding. How do you build a long-term strategy when you don't know if your product will even be relevant in a few months?
Yeah, it's tough to predict what's next. Now, in the midst of all this talk about alcoholic beverages, our sources point to another interesting trend, the rise of non-alcoholic options. Seems a bit counterintuitive, right? I mean, everyone's crazy about canned cocktails. But at the same time, there's this growing interest in, well, not drinking alcohol.
It might seem like a contradiction, but it's not really. I think it's part of a bigger trend. There's more awareness now about the potential health risks of drinking too much. And younger generations, they're more interested in moderating their drinking. It's not about abstaining completely, it's about having choices. Being able to go out, be social, enjoy a tasty drink, but without the alcohol.
So the beverage industry, they're having to adapt, right, to keep up with these evolving tastes.
Definitely. And that's where we see the rise of what some are calling total beverage companies. These companies, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They offer a diverse portfolio of products, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. They're catering to a wider range of consumer needs, recognizing that, hey, not everyone wants to drink alcohol all the time.
It's like a one-stop shop for whatever your beverage needs are. Pretty smart. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with private equity, then delved into President Carter's legacy, explored the future of Apple, and ended with the world of canned cocktails. Quite a journey.
It really has been. And what's fascinating is how all these seemingly unrelated topics, they actually share some common threads.
Oh,
Right. Well, think about it. We saw how private equity firms are having to adapt, shifting from just chasing those quick profits to focusing on building long-term value. We looked at President Carter, often judged just on the economic challenges of his time, and discovered he was actually a pretty visionary leader, laying the groundwork for a lot of things we take for granted today. And then we saw how even a giant like Apple, with all its brand power, faces uncertainty in this fast-paced tech world.
I see you're saying adaptability. That seems to be the key takeaway. Whether you're a huge private equity firm, a former president, a tech giant, or even a canned cocktail brand, being able to adapt to change, to roll with those punches, it's crucial for survival and success.
Exactly. We're living in a world that's constantly in flux, and the ones who thrive are the ones who can anticipate change, embrace new ideas, and, adjust their course as needed.
It's a powerful reminder that we can't afford to be stuck in old ways of thinking.
We have to be willing to challenge our assumptions, adapt to new realities.
And that brings us back to you, our listener. By understanding these trends, the forces driving them, you can make more informed decisions in your career, your investments, even just in how you see the world.
It's like you've been given a peek behind the curtain. You've seen how these seemingly unrelated trends are connected, how the world's always shifting. Now you can use that knowledge to your advantage.
Whether you're an entrepreneur looking for the next big thing, an investor trying to make sense of the markets, or just someone who wants to stay ahead of the curve, that ability to connect the dots is invaluable.
It helps you see the big picture, anticipate those challenges and opportunities, make smarter decisions. It's like having a secret weapon in a world that's only getting more complex and unpredictable.
So as you go about your day, I want you to keep an eye out for those unexpected connections. You'll be surprised how often they pop up.
And don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from questioning the status quo, looking at things from a different angle. And that's really what this deep dive is all about, encouraging you to think critically, make those connections.
We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, maybe sparked your curiosity to explore some of these ideas further.
And to wrap things up, we'll leave you with one final question, something to ponder. Given the rapid pace of change we've been talking about today, what skills, what mindsets do you think will be most important for navigating the future? What can you do, starting today, to prepare yourself for what's ahead?
Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own deep dive into the world around you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making those connections. It really highlights how important it is to stay flexible, not get stuck in old ways of thinking. We have to be willing to challenge assumptions and adapt to new realities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you come in, our listener. By really understanding these trends, the forces shaping them, you can make more informed decisions in your own life, whether it's your career, your investments, even just how you navigate the world around you.
So it's not just about listening, it's about actually using this knowledge, taking action.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You've been given a glimpse behind the curtain. You see how these seemingly totally random trends are actually connected. You see how the world's constantly in motion, always changing. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?
It's a powerful tool, right? Whether you're an entrepreneur searching for that next big opportunity, an investor trying to make sense of the markets, or just someone who wants to, stay ahead of the curve, this ability to connect the dots, it's incredibly valuable.
It really is. It helps you see the big picture, anticipate challenges and opportunities, and ultimately make smarter decisions. It's like having a secret weapon in a world that's becoming increasingly complex and unpredictable.
So as you go about your day, I want you to pay attention. Look for those unexpected connections. You might be surprised at what you find.
And don't be afraid to challenge your own assumptions. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from questioning what everyone else takes for granted, from looking at things from a totally different angle. That's really what this deep dive is all about. It's about encouraging you to think critically and make those connections.
We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, sparked your curiosity to explore some of these ideas further.
And to wrap things up, we'll leave you with one final thought-provoking question. Given how quickly things are changing, what skills and mindsets do you think will be most essential for navigating the future? What can you start doing today to prepare yourself for what's coming next?
Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own deep dive into the world around you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making those connections.